In just 81 minutes, two criminal masterminds orchestrated a meticulously planned heist that would not only fatten their pockets but leave the entire world stunned. They didn't just steal art. They stole $500 million worth of masterpieces, and they did it in less time than it takes to watch a movie. And that's not even the craziest part. It's been over 30 years since the heist, and they haven't been caught. Get ready as we dive into the unbelievable story of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist and show you how two ordinary people executed the robbery of a lifetime. Now let's transport ourselves back to that eerie night, March 18th, 1990, in the heart of Boston. Our two central characters, the criminals behind this audacious heist, had spent weeks meticulously planning every detail. They knew that their mission would require not just cunning, but nerves of steel. Dressed in the guise of Boston police officers, these criminals were ready to deceive. They wore uniforms complete with badges and police caps. The impersonation was impeccable, down to the badges that looked like genuine law enforcement insignia. Their identities remained a mystery, hidden behind these convincing disguises. Before the daring entry, the thieves parked their vehicle near the museum. They waited patiently in the dimly lit car, waiting for the perfect moment. They knew the streets had to settle down, that the city had to drift into deeper slumber before their plan could come to life. The minutes ticked away, and as the city slept, they put their audacious plan into motion. Approaching the museum's entrance, their uniforms lent an air of authority. They had a cover story prepared, a disturbance call, a ruse designed to play on the guards' duty to protect the museum. As they knocked on the door, their uniforms and calm demeanor gave the impression of genuine officers responding to an emergency. Meanwhile, inside the museum that night were two dedicated security guards, Richard Abath and Randy Heston. The circumstances were particularly unusual for Richard Abath, as it was his first time on the night shift. This was likely a pivotal reason for the success of the robbery. Nevertheless, the security guards, unsuspecting and dutiful, opened the door. It was a critical moment, and the thieves seized it. They claimed they were there to investigate a disturbance report inside the museum. The guards, trusting in the uniforms and the apparent legitimacy of the situation, allowed them entry without a second thought. As the thieves entered the museum under the guise of Boston police officers, they swiftly seized control of the situation. The guards, Richard Abath and Randy Heston, found themselves facing not protectors of the law, but hardened criminals. With a calculated mix of deception and force, the thieves subdued the guards. They were quickly overpowered, their hands bound with duct tape and their mouths silenced. It was a terrifying moment as they realized that their lives were at the mercy of these criminals. With the guards incapacitated, the thieves knew they needed to keep them out of the way. So they led them down to the basement, where they were securely tied up and left in a dark, cold room. The guards were helpless, their shouts and pleas muffled by the tape that bound their mouths. And then, in a chilling moment etched into the annals of this audacious heist, one of the robbers stood before the bound security guards and, with an air of grim finality, uttered the ominous words, "Gentlemen, this is a robbery." The guards could only watch in stunned disbelief as their captors disappeared into the depths of the museum, leaving them in a cold, dark cellar, tied up and helpless. The thieves had seized control of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, and the guards would remain trapped in that basement while the robbers stripped the museum of its treasure. Back in the museum's corridors, the thieves roamed free. With confidence born of careful planning, they embarked on their mission. Their first stop was the Dutch Room, home to Johannes Vermeer's The Concert, valued at an astounding $200 million. This was by far the most expensive piece, and in mere moments, it was removed, leaving only an empty frame in its place. Moving swiftly, the thieves entered the short gallery. Here, they laid their hands on Rembrandt's A Lady and Gentleman in Black, another masterpiece with an estimated worth of $100 million. The painting was meticulously detached from its place, leaving behind an empty space and an eerie silence. Then, they moved on to the Blue Room. It was here where the famous Edouard Manet's chaise tortoni graced the walls, valued at approximately $50 million. The thieves didn't hesitate, and the Parisian scene was swiftly and silently removed. Finally, the Yellow Room hosted Edgar Degas's 3 mounted jockeys, valued at an impressive $30 million. With utmost care, the thieves took down this equestrian masterpiece, leaving the room devoid of its most iconic piece. In total, the thieves made off with 13 priceless masterpieces, together valued at roughly $500 million. Their haul included some of the most celebrated works in the art world and took only 81 minutes to pull off. With their audacious heist complete, the thieves had one final challenge: making their escape. They left the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum under the cloak of darkness, but not before leaving behind chilling evidence. Not only did they leave the place a mess, with shattered glass littered through the halls and empty frames scattered on the floor, they had made one crucial mistake, or so it seemed. The museum's security cameras had recorded their every move. These cameras, installed to protect the precious artworks, had unwittingly documented the thieves' faces and their calculated method of operation. Although it was a grave mistake, the evidence would prove invaluable in the investigation to come. As dawn broke over Boston, a new day dawned, and with it came the discovery of the audacious heist. The morning crew arrived at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, expecting a routine day, but instead finding a scene of confusion and shock. Down in the basement, Richard Abath and Randy Heston remained bound and isolated. The morning crew discovered them, still tied up and bewildered by the events of the night. The guards, who had been powerless to stop the heist, could only provide limited information about the thieves' appearance and actions. The realization of the magnitude of the heist slowly sank in as the authorities were notified. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, known for its serene beauty, had become the site of one of the most daring and notorious art heists in history. The empty frames hanging on the walls served as haunting reminders of the masterpieces that had vanished into the night. Despite the security cameras capturing the thieves' faces and the tireless efforts of investigators over the course of more than 3 decades, the audacious criminals remain at large. And after 30 years, the stolen masterpieces have yet to return to their rightful place on the museum's walls. If you found this story fascinating, you need to check out this video about the $50 million train heist. Not only did this gang of criminals get rich beyond their means, but the story of their capture is one for the books. I'll see you there.